Our generation is soft. Why is everyone wanting to work from home?
I have no interest in calling you while you're sitting in your bedroom in Brickell.
You just make yourself so much more replaceable by like putting yourself in those shoes.
I say the more uncomfortable you are, the better. Like, you know what sucks? Waking up at 6:30 and trying to put up 2 plates. Like, you know what's easy? Sitting at a desk sending emails when you're in your office and got your free coffee. Like,
These remote jobs, they're gonna go from back office to no office. Why would we pay 100 grand a year when we can just go to Latin America and spend $2,800 a month?
I'm not sure if that generation is ever going to fully recover, just because so many of them are so resistant from getting into the office and they're losing so much opportunity.
Some of the best ideas come from just bantering in the office and spitballing ideas.
You want your high-level, strong positions to be in the office. It's spontaneous collaboration. This whole like hybrid remote thing that we're discussing, working in your PJs, this is just a modern way of saying lifestyle versus career growth.
100%.
All right, welcome to another episode of Deal Flow Friday. I'm your host, Dave Mogavam, and today we got Mark Silverman, Bryce Goldsen, co-founders of AdvanceCRE. We also got best friend of the pod, Max Sharkansky.
Thank you for having me. Great to be here.
Of course, always a pleasure having you. And we got a sick studio that we're at. This is amazing. Shout out to Content HQ for that in Miami. Mark, Bryce, really good having you. Let me give a quick intro on AdvanceCRE. They've been huge for Trion. AdvanceCRE, they're a premier executive search firm dedicated to the real estate industry, renowned for placing high-level executives in critical roles. Who have they placed for us now? Felipe, Adri,
Natalina, Chad.
I mean, that's a very talented list on our team.
Johnny.
Yeah, wow.
Johnny.
I mean, it's amazing.
The whole executive team.
Yeah, Trion's come a long way from finding me like on the street on
in the back alleys of West Hollywood.
Exactly, to now using you guys to beef up our staff.
You guys find our human capital, but
yeah.
I thought it'd be a great idea.
Yeah, and you guys are great. And I think the inspiration for this too was you guys were bantering on text a little bit and saying, our generation is soft. Why is everyone wanting to work from home? And so I think we got to talk a little bit about that.
That's a good segue.
Get a little passionate about us. Before we dive into it, I think you guys I want to give the audience a chance to hear about how you guys started this, how do you get into it, and what you guys are all about.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us. Appreciate that.
Thanks for having us.
I feel like I'm the first kind of us to touch recruitment. I kind of fell into it. I got cold called, by a recruiter, and they kind of said, "Hey, do you want to, hear more about it?" I was talking with Bryce during that time. I was working, for an aerospace company, and I was like, I want to get into sales, something I can scale and leverage. The more you put in, the more you get out, right? So I took a chance, worked for a company, and I learned a lot about how to recruit, but I also said I learned a lot about how not to recruit. I think some of the bigger agencies, they lack for our team, it's really high touch, right? And we know obviously you guys very well, but every single client we work with, we try to get to know them very well. So I started my own recruitment shop right before the pandemic, actually, and then the pandemic came along.
That must have been a crazy...
wiped me out. But the good thing was, and I know we do bag on work from home a little bit too much, without a little bit of work from home, it would have never happened, because I got to work with Bryce from home while I was doing my recruiting thing, and he was doing something very different.
Yeah, so I was actually just doing classic real estate investment banking, was just thinking I was going to recruit into either asset management investments on the real estate side, but COVID broke out, started working from home, and started watching Mark do some recruiting, and thought, hey, this looks pretty fun. It's also a pretty good business model, and just human capital in general as an idea is just, in my opinion, something that drives so much value. And at the same time, I was starting to look at recruiting in real estate and work with some recruiters, and starting to felt I wasn't they didn't necessarily understand the ins and outs of the industry always. There was a little bit of a gap there, and just felt like if I could bring my industry expertise, even though it was only a couple of years, but just from working in the industry, to recruiting, combine that with the background in recruiting that Mark had kind of taught me, that we could really create something with a lot of value for the real estate industry. So we hopped in 2021 and founded the company, and we're actually 2020. Damn time
But
flies.
that was like a wash. That was our mulligan year. Was 2020.
Mulligan year, but you guys,
we don't count that.
What
You
company
guys-
were you working at? What were you doing? I didn't know you
I
were.
was so I was at Houlihan in LA doing like real estate investment banking, and so had COVID never happened, AdvanceCRE
Would never happen.
would never happen.
and you were in LA.
Yeah, we
during
were in
that time.
LA. You know, obviously we stayed in LA for, I'd say, 3 or 4 years after that, and really got the groundwork of the foundation of, we had an original team. We had a lot of people actually come through, and, some have gone off to start their own recruiting firms on their own. So yeah, we probably have had like 15 or so employees come through our firm. But the people in LA, we actually, recently relocated, as you know, to the East Coast, but, we really laid the foundation in Los Angeles, and then took the band on the road.
What made the move? What sparked the move?
I mean, East Coast hours, I'll boil it down to that.
I'm going to miss that.
Yeah, East Coast hours I think are so important for the work we do, since, our biggest market's obviously here in Miami. It's been surprisingly how much, when we really look back, how much we've done here in Miami. Also Atlanta, DC's been huge for us, and of course New York. It did in Texas. So, even though there's Central Time, being 3 hours ahead of where we were on the West Coast has just taken us to another gear.
And when you're listing these cities, is this cities where you're finding good talent, or that you're talking to a lot of owners, operators that are looking
It's
to
chicken
hire?
and egg, right? Like you find good professionals and you find good, shops, right? Like, so which comes first? Sometimes, honestly, you find a really good professional and you can, take that professional to a group and say, hey, I know someone really strong. We call it speccing someone out. Or you find a really good client that, has a lot of needs, and then of course, the job we do is finding them the people. So it can work both ways, really.
Are you still seeing a lot of people move for work? So does that
With
happen?
like a relocation?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, Bryce, I feel like Bryce has, a really good eye on the relo.
I would say the relo market, I think, is like, COVID definitely was an accelerator for it. And I'd say, in a sense, I think it has slowed down a little bit. Is kind of like, the COVID era has kind of cooled off a little bit, and just like where we're at in the market right now, I don't think we're seeing as much relocation demand as we were, right at the start of COVID early on. But I do kind of think is like, we are going through like a cycle change. There's a lot of new opportunities popping up. People are definitely like maybe feeling a little stagnant, feeling like a little more open. I think this year in 26, we've started to like definitely hear people say, you know what, like I'm not feeling the growth in New York, or I'm not feeling the growth in San Francisco. I'm willing to go, check out a market. It's just so opportunity driven, I think, for most people.
And
especially
age,
in,
once you got a family, kids in school, like it becomes very hard to relocate. But some of these younger guys and gals, like they can pick up and move. There's different factors. People that get stuck maybe in the town or the region they went to college, and then they say, you know what, I want to go back to where I'm from originally. So it depends. Like usually you see I'd say like at the 5-year mark is like the perfect time to maybe explore that. But 10, 15 years, it's really rare, I'd say.
I feel like COVID was just this incredible force that actually spurred so much movement, that now moving is the norm, working from home or hybrid is the norm. You guys started at 2020, maybe the mulligan year 2021, but you saw how the culture changed. What are some of the big changes in hiring that you've noticed through all these years since inception?
Well, I'll say when I first recruited was 2018, and it was suit and tie every day. Like casual was no tie. Casual Fridays, no tie, right? Yeah, exactly. What Max got, that's perfect for casual Friday. And I mean, you'd skip out at work at like 6:30, and they'd be like, "Oh, Silverman, you're taking a half day."
Part-timer, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Part-timer, huh?
That was the culture in 2018.
Yeah.
Office every day, And you get on the phone, candidates, the same job. Hey, I got an opportunity, yada, yada. First question was always, where's the job? Where's the job, right? I did a lot of construction at the time. What's the pay? Those are the two main drivers. Now, first question, how many days do I get from home?
Wow.
First question. Can this be a remote role? Or you'll tell them about the job, and then they'll say, can this be a remote role? And I'm like, no.
What do you?
It can't.
So
yeah.
in that light, where's the puck going? Like, where do you see this going over the next 2, 3, 5, 10 years?
It depends on the market. And Bryce talks about the candidate versus the client-driven market a lot. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, what are we in now? It depends on where you're in now.
Yeah, I'd say like where it's going now is, I think it's so case by case to a certain degree. I mean, I think long term, like just with like some sort of hybrid flexibility is a driver for some people and they need that in their life. And so that can make sense. But I think, certain teams definitely do gain a competitive advantage from being in person, every day, sharing ideas, sharing feedback. Like, and if you're gaining a competitive advantage there, then, your other competitors are going to have to pick up on that and, follow trend. So like, I think on like the investments, asset management, the highly like competitive like sides of the business, like in person is just continuing to tick back towards that 5 days in office, 4 days in office. And like, I don't really see that trend slowing down because in my opinion, I think it's clear just from our experience with having our employees in office versus having people remote. Like there is just an efficiency drive that's created. So like if you're picking up on efficiencies that your competitors aren't picking up on, then eventually everyone's going to float to, where, they can get the most value out of their people, which, in our opinion is, primarily that in-office culture where you can have a relationship, you can talk to, all those people around you, share ideas, and like you're going to build more efficiencies that way. So I think it's driving back towards an in-office culture, especially on the competitive sides of the business. Now, certain, areas like hybrid can work really well for certain roles. Remote can work really well for certain roles, and that is going to continue to drive that. If the top talent is like floating that way, then maybe you can actually build a more competitive team in certain verticals by allowing people to be remote, allowing people to be hybrid. So I think it's so case by case on the actual work the team is doing and, what they're focused on and, also just the culture of the firm and how they're structured for it. Some teams work really well at a more like hybrid remote basis and, a lot don't. So I think it is very case by case, but I do think the overall trend is pushing back in office. And I think we've definitively seen that over the past.
So with a team, typical real estate investment team that's vertically integrated like a Trion, where do you draw the line in general? I know we're talking broad stroke here, but where do you draw the line? Where do you look at a candidate and you say, like, this needs to be in the office? Max, I could even ask you this question too. What's the most effective in the office versus what is something that you feel better or feel okay if it's remote or out of the office?
I would agree with Bryce, like you want your high level, strong positions to be in the office. Like, I have no interest in calling you on the phone while you're sitting in your bedroom in Brickell. Just come in the office and
5 minute walk away.
Yeah, I can walk into your office and we could talk and I can look at your screen. And
some of the best ideas come from just
of course they
bantering in the office and spitballing ideas, and you don't get that if you're remote.
It's spontaneous collaboration, right? You don't get spontaneous collaboration on remote. You have to like send somebody a Teams message or call them. And it's not the same. I have an idea, I get up, I walk in your office and we discuss it.
But then at the same time, 4 years plus, you guys, we opened the Miami office. Now half the team is not in the same office as the other. How has that experience been? What were some of the hardships in that regard? And then what were some of the positives as well from just being, having two offices, being able to work together by covering different territories?
Well, as you know, I spend a lot of time going back and forth, right? I'm in LA 8 to 10 times a year. Last year was probably 10. This year will probably be closer to 8 because last year we brought on Natalina, Johnny, Farhan left. We transitioned him out, transitioned you in. So there was a lot of change at the corporate level. So I had to just be constantly in the office. That said, I'm doing that because there's a value to that. You spend time with people, you talk through strategy, you talk through the business, where's the puck going, how do we make things better? So that's why I was spending so much time there. And I think we've kind of figured out a way to make it efficient, right? Like our CFO, Mashad, sits in LA and he's got his accounting team in that office and he runs his team there. It's not like he's got like 5 accountants in LA and 5 in Miami and the whole thing is disjointed. We do have a few that are offshore, and that's probably something we should talk about too. Like, is that because somebody recently asked me in our company, and we could talk about that afterwards offline, like, hey, I think I want to be remote. And I started explaining to them, like, it's just not that simple. Like these remote jobs, they're going to go from back office to no office because like, why would we pay, for example, using a round number, $100,000 a year plus bennies, plus payroll, plus this, plus that, plus, when we can just go to Latin America and spend $2,800 a month all in. So that's what you're competing with when you're remote. Just understand that. Like that is your competition.
Yeah, feel that.
But they're not filling those jobs. Like, I mean,
no, I know, but they're
jobs,
competing against.
Yeah, we're not going to find you an EA in Colombia. Like,
They're trying to place talent. They're trying to place talent, and then maybe, you know, like
that screws us too. That screws us because
exactly.
I mean, it's funny. Just yesterday, we signed a client in Miami looking for an executive assistant. There's been 2 executive assistant roles in New York. I think I'm missing even another one. Like, there's a huge demand for executive assistants right now. I feel like I don't know
in
why
the office.
In the office, I don't know why that's the trend. I wish it was, you know, huge demand for CFOs, right? But no, right now, all these companies are saying to drive efficiency, we need someone to take work off the plate. We need a really sharp professional in the office. That's what, it's the trend.
By the way,
when there's smoke, there's fire. Like, this isn't like a, you know, one-off thing. This is like a 5-off thing. And it's only been like the first month, in change. We're, you know, 6 days into February, we have like 6 of these jobs already. It's crazy.
I would never hire an offshore EA, VA, whatever, that's like doing anything meaningful, because I don't want to give somebody in a foreign country all of my personal information, all my credit cards,
that's
my
a good
social.
point. That's a very good point.
You know, like my EA helps me with some healthcare stuff too. Not that like, whatever, I've got like highly confidential healthcare issues.
There's a level of trust with your EA.
But there's a level of trust with somebody sitting 6 feet away from you versus somebody sitting in Bolivia.
Yeah.
Right? So
I never even thought of that.
Yeah. And I think another thing to think about for these people that want to like insist on being remote or whatever is like, not only can you be offshored, but where does AI come into it?
Totally.
Yeah, for sure.
And at which point does back office become no office?
That's
AI comes into the office with you every day. You know, it's
it's
right there with
it's
you.
in your pocket, right? Here it is right here.
That's wild.
Let's talk a little bit about that. Have you guys gotten any calls on that? Like, hey, you know, we need somebody to help out, build us out like an AI tech stack, or like any type of like AI consultant.
Yeah, like a big REIT. We were just working with a huge REIT out of Boston on this like head of AI and implementation role. You know, and it's funny because, you know, just be honest, like you celebrate your wins, you celebrate your losses. You know, this company was so gung-ho about this job. We found a really good professional. I don't think they were willing to cut the check that he needed to see. And he was at CBRE. Like, this was like the CBRE AI guy, you know, and they got cold feet. They, you know, maybe some egos got involved. They ended up not going forward with the professional, restarting the search. A month into the search, they got discouraged and pulled the job. And it's like, well, you still wanted that. It's like when you want to buy the new car and you realize you can't afford it. It's like you don't all of a sudden not want that car. Like, you still want that new car. You just can't afford it or didn't buy it for whatever reason. It's like, I don't understand the pullback on such an important, you know, we're at the forefront of this thing, not the middle or not the end. So why would you all of a sudden give up, you know, when you're so close to really elevating your company? I can't imagine what a head of AI and implementation coming from CBRE could do to like a underperforming REIT. I'm looking at their stock. Anyone can look at their stock. It's not going in the right direction, right? It's going the other direction. So,
let me be devil's advocate though for a second. So I also feel like that role, there's no, I went to this school, that school, and got a degree in AI implementation for a company, right? It's hard to show on a resume. It's probably those roles that you're saying where it's like, hey, I helped this big company implement it. But AI is changing so quickly. There's no, just when you think you know how to implement it, there's a new way that AI can help a company. And so part of it I've learned through our company is just being curious, trying things out, trying to take a second off of our extremely busy days to maybe have a task take a little bit longer just so that you can make it more efficient down the line.
100%.
So we've been doing that. Is it the solution? I don't know. Like maybe some of these bigger companies, you do need the guy.
I think you absolutely do need the guy.
But I think,
like, you need someone to drive the effort, right? It can't be guy. No offense to you, right? It can't be people doing trial and error. It needs to be centralized. You need to have a professional drive the initiative. You can't have property managers, you know, asset managers, analysts just poking and stabbing at different AI techniques and seeing what works and what doesn't. That's just not a conducive way to conduct business.
Yeah, I do think like a lot of these like, you know, firms when they're considering like who they're, you know, they know they need to hire someone to like lead, you know, implementation rollout of AI, and they look like okay, we need to hire an executive. But a lot of the times I don't even really know if that's, necessary for what they need. Because, they might, for instance, like a shop, it's 200 people, they want to hire a head of AI. So they go and look at, all these senior directors, and like AI wages are gone so,
Absurd.
like absurd. So they have something that they get like kind of like, sticker, like they're, wow, we're going to have to pay, so much. And it's like, at the end of the day, like you really just, I think where we've seen like success is people hiring more junior level AI positions. It's like kind of a side note, but it's like I was reading an article about like Shopify and how they realized like their interns were the ones like that were driving the strongest understanding implementation of AI because they had the most like exposure to it young. So suddenly they realized every single team on their like throughout the entire company needs an intern, and that intern is going to focus on the AI implementation. So like maybe you don't need the 20-year veteran with a PhD in AI to build out these tools for your real estate company. Maybe it's not that deep. Maybe you just need a super sharp comp sci right out of school that's going to come in super motivated, and you're going to pay 25% of what you had to for that year, but you're going to maybe drive even more value for the organization.
Max,
So,
we had an intern that this was earlier on, I think
Yes.
maybe over like a few years ago or a year or so ago. I don't remember the exact case that the intern kind of used AI. I think it was either with some accounting or reporting that they just did like a task that takes days.
Yeah.
in,
I
like,
remember what it
minutes.
was.
Okay, yeah.
So first of all, this guy was like a genius. He was way too smart for us, and I think just too smart for our industry in general.
give his name to Bryce and
Yeah,
Mark.
after the show, yeah.
Yeah.
Let me know who this guy is.
I don't remember his name, but we had somebody in accounting that was doing credit card reimbursements.
That's what it was, yeah.
And because it's property management, right? Or whatever you want to call it, operations. And we're using the company card to buy materials and travel and all these things for the property level, which Trion pays for and then gets
Right.
reimbursed for. And somebody was doing all of that manually. And he looked at it, he says, "What are you idiots doing?" Basically,
The
like,
intern.
are you out of your mind? This guy was like 22 years old. I don't think he shaved yet. And he said, I'll just do this in AI. And the whole thing started just like reimbursing itself and creating this whole map of how to reimburse it. And this was like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
This is like 2024.
This is kind of my
Maybe
point.
like 18 months ago, 20 months ago. Yeah.
Sometimes like, these like the AI role, I'm sure for these big companies, you need a leader there.
Yeah.
But maybe for some of like the middle or smaller companies, it comes to just having young talent, like a junior guy, someone that's grown up with this new wave.
Yeah.
Not the dinosaur in the room like us that are.
We just did one of those in San Diego. It was
Yeah.
like a BI AI analyst, came right out of UCLA, sharp as a tack. Actually, I believe that he's still going for one more semester, and this is his spring term graduation, right? But the company was like, this kid is it. And they hired him early. Now he's part-time, but he's going to, it's almost like an internship, but he's going to get the job after he graduates. And exactly what you're saying, like Bryce saying, you're saying young guy, young gal to lead that initiative. And we've done one of those. And it was I think, a great hire.
Yeah. Maybe try starting out with like a intern of AI for a summer instead of trying to hire the managing director of AI, I mean, I think it's just, a place to start and build from there, see how much you can actually utilize it and grow like from kind of the bottom, up instead of trying to just put this person in and hold them to such a high expectation from day one in an area that's so constantly changing.
Have you had Zalkin on yet? On the pod?
No.
You were supposed to have John Zalkin on. So
Yeah.
one of my friends in the industry, I'll give him a plug. He left his old shop and he started a company called Advance AI. And he partnered up with a guy that was doing pretty heavy AI work for very large companies, like Fortune 500 companies. But those Fortune 500 companies will pay you $500,000 or $1 million to build out an AI tech stack, right? Nobody in real estate's doing that. Yeah. I mean, unless it's like Vornado or Blackstone, nobody's doing that, right? Especially I think they're kind of trying to target the middle market, or even like upper middle market, like 15, 20, 25,000 units. They're still not doing that. And they started a company called Advance AI, and they're a fractional AI officer. So they'll help you build out the tech stack, and they use some of their own proprietary tech. And it's going to be a lot of underwriting, of course, instead of doing 2-3 models a day for like a group our size or like whatever, like middle market active sponsors. do 10 models a day.
Yeah.
And instead of having 3 analysts, you have 1 analyst, or you have an acquisitions guy with no analysts if you're a little bit of a younger shop. I know there's some other stuff too. I know the underwriting we talked about, but whatever, you'll have him on the pod and he'll talk more about it. So
On that note, as Max was saying, it looks like with the growth of AI, there might be less of a demand for human capital. How have you guys been seeing that trend unfold in your line of work?
I think there is definitely for overall headcount, absolutely calls for a decrease. But I think in a way, it almost demands that the headcount that you do hold on to needs to be of the highest quality, right? Like you can't, like if you're going to only have 1 analyst versus bring in 3 analysts and figure out, from there, well, who's the standout, who's working, maybe who's not working, but you're only having 1 analyst and supporting them with AI, then it's like, it makes sense to invest in getting the best person possible in that seat to drive value. So it's like, that's where, people oftentimes say like, oh, there's not going to be nearly as many jobs with AI. Isn't that going to be bad for you guys? And it's like, I don't think so, because it's going to mean like, well, that the jobs are left, the jobs that are still there, like the stakes are going to be even higher for the human capital that you're going to want to put in those seats. So that's where, I think it could actually be a positive for our business.
Yeah, and this might not be like a fair question, but are you actually feeling that there is now more of a demand or less of the demand in your work from it, or is it just the same?
I think it's hard to tell like right now in real estate, just like where it's at, like in the overall market, like how things
there's
are. There's
so many other factors happening right now.
Yeah, what's causing like what is causing the job market? Because the job market is a little slow right now. I mean, we're not denying that. Like right now, like it's just a pretty slow job hiring market in real estate. And so what factors are causing that? Like it could be AI, that could definitely be a factor, but I think it's more like other fundamentals in the market.
I mean, like everyone's the buzzword, but economic, like, I don't think anyone, we did probably 20 meetings down here, and I don't think anyone feels like this is the best time of all time,
Right.
But, look, it's cyclical, like for every peak, there's a valley. So it's just we can't like look at it right now and be like, well, it's because of AI. There's other factors.
And I think if you look at this like any other economic revolution, right? Anything that happens that's revolutionary to the economy, it does get rid of some jobs, but creates so many more.
Exactly.
Right. So like when the car came around, yes, the people that were riding horses and whipping horses were out of jobs, but there were literally exponentially more jobs. Making cars and everything that's car related. And I mean, we can go on and on, but I think that's kind of, if you're an optimist on technology and on economic evolution, then that's the way to think about it. So you guys will have plenty of jobs to place.
Yeah. And just like, I was going to say, like in real estate, like in the built world in general, like there's just plenty of roles in the industry where like, how could AI replace like your property manager? Like if you your maintenance professional, like it can't fix your air conditioner. It might be able to tell you how to do it, but it can't actually go there and do it. So it's like, I just think like the built world in general has, plenty of roles that are just almost like irreplaceable.
Yeah. And my thing, like it's been my thing for a long time is construction development, right? So with that industry, like there's literally no way an AI could physically build these buildings.
No, of course not.
And
like imagine how much more efficient. Oh, sorry.
The labor shortage is becoming insane, which Bryce was saying there's opportunity for us. He doesn't think that we're losing our grip. There's like no construction talent out there. Like there's vocational work, vocational schools gone.
No one wants to be an electrician anymore.
No one wants to go in the trades. Yeah. No one wants to work. You know what you have to do? You have to go to the job site. So no one wants to do that because they want to work from home in their pajamas. We're like, but that means that we have an opportunity to go represent, these companies and go find them these trades and these construction professionals. So I'm happy about that. That's good for our business, because there is a critical lack of, infrastructure talent.
Well, I think part of that too is what we were talking about early on with the whole culture of work from home, and now how people want to sit behind a desk to make money or sit in their comfort of their home and be introverted and not go out, not go on a podcast, not network, and rather just do it behind a screen. Talk to us a little bit about where do you think that what's wrong with our generation in that regard, of like, why are people not seeing it the
it's a
same
problem
way?
because it's like these are our peers. These
Yeah.
are people that we hang out with on the weekends and we text and we joke around with. But like, I wake up 6 o'clock in the morning, work out, hit a 8 o'clock train. It's freezing outside. I got my mittens on. Usually I lose one, and like that sucks. And then walk home with one mitten. So it's like that's just like what you do. And then you get back home at like 7:30, and then your buddy's he never left the apartment. You're like, oh, well, this is just my friend. We just do the exact different thing every day. So it's like it's hard for me to say what's wrong with this because like these are our peers, right? This is the same level of same age, same graduating class, and like you're just doing something so different. Like
With
I
like
don't-
10
I don't
different
know-
side
I don't know
hustles
where
going
they're
on
going.
in their.
By the way, this whole like hybrid remote thing that we're discussing and like working in your PJs, this is just a modern way of saying lifestyle versus career growth.
100%.
That's all it is.
People don't
That's all
want
it is. It's
any.
just-
I say the more uncomfortable you are, the better.
Of
And try to
course.
make yourself uncomfortable in as many ways you can. Like, what sucks? Waking up at 6:30 and trying to, put up 2 plates. Like, that sucks. It's hard to work out in the morning. It's hard to, walk to work when it's freezing outside. But the uncomfort, I think, prepares you. It's easy sitting at a desk sending emails when you're in your office and you got your free coffee. Like the challenge of, getting up and getting after it makes the rest of the job seem so trivial. Like, it's easy to sit in an air-conditioned room and rip cold calls. Like, I'm calling these guys on construction sites who they're working their ass off. They're in the sun. Like, they're sweating. They're
Getting their
freezing.
hands, yeah.
They're getting their hands dirty where I look at my job and say, like, this is so easy. All I have to do is go to an office building, send emails, and call people. Like, that's very straightforward. Like, that doesn't feel hard to me at all.
Yeah, exactly. So like hybrid remote. So like when I was out of college, 22, 23, 24 years old, I was working at Marcus. I was a broker, and I was telling peers, like I was working 7 a.m., 7 p.m. plus weekends and cold calling and hustling. And there were people that just, even in our industry, in the brokerage industry, they're like, that's just too hard. Like, I'm not that ambitious, right? It's really what it comes down to. Like, I'll go work at Remax on the Boulevard and I get a higher split and I could do half the deals that you do and, make almost as much money. I don't have to work as hard. And, that's enough money for me. And like, that's fine. Yeah. And it's a tale as old as time, right? And it just happens to be right now, it's remote, right? Somebody choosing lifestyle over career growth is just going to go remote.
And I always say, like, I'm 31, so I still kind of feel like I do have young. It's like, why do you not, like, people are like, I want to travel when I'm young. I want to do all this stuff when I'm young. It's like, well, that means you're going to need to make more money and look at inflation where it's taking things, right? When you're older and you're, bones hurt and you have kids, like, it's going to be, you're going to have to lock in and work harder at that older age instead of working when you have the energy and you have the go-getter attitude, and then invest that money, and then when you get older you get wealthier and it becomes easier. Like, why are you creating this challenge for yourself to earn and succeed later in life? You just kind of kick the can down the road. Why not use the just biological advantage of being young to try to succeed now?
It's short-sighted. Our generation, might not have kids or college paying for college yet, or paying for weddings or paying for anything. We have way less responsibilities today than what we will have 20 years from now. And yet we want to sacrifice growth for lifestyle at an age where you need to build for your future.
And
I think there's just
fun. Like, I'm having a good time personally. Like,
totally.
I enjoy every single day I wake up. Like, I'm excited to go work.
Because
like,
AI is not going to replace this, right?
Exactly,
AI is not going to replace this. They're going to replace some of these other things. So not to go back to AI, but what I'm saying is there's just such a shift in culture now with our generation. And it makes me a little worried. It makes me a little worried about where our nation is heading in that regard of our productivity. We're a nation that's entrepreneurial. We're the cutting edge of things. And it's through our hard work. And I just feel like now we're compromising that a little bit.
And you see other countries like China, like all the kids want to be like astronauts and doctors, and like everyone wants to be like a TikToker in America, which is like pretty concerning.
Yeah. I mean, also, I think this is also a tale as old as time, deferred gratification, right? Like, don't do that. Don't take the 6-week sabbatical when you're 25 years old. It's kind of ridiculous.
I mean,
if you
they would like run you out of town on a rail for saying they're taking away their sabbatical. Like, you can't say that. Like,
in where?
Like, if you say, "Oh, you can't take your sabbatical," they will freak out. Like, that's
25.
You don't touch someone's vacation.
Yeah.
You don't touch their time off. Like, you can't even come at that.
Well, I think like when I graduated from college in 2019, I was like, I feel very blessed that I got to spend like my first 10 months out of school going to an office and just like having that happen. And then like when COVID happened, that's gone. So like and we hear about it, and I think it's something we feel a lot with these kids that graduated in like 2020, 21, 22, where like they never started going to an office. Like they never did that. So in a way, like they don't understand the advantages to going into the office, and B, like they're uncomfortable doing it because that's not what they're used to. So it just sets such a weird trend for kind of that new age coming out that like, I'm hopeful that it'll be offset, but I'm not sure like if that generation is ever going to like fully recover, just because like so many of them are so resistant from getting into the office, and they're losing so much opportunity by having like all the pluses that you get from productivity, from networking, from just like
mentorship,
being social. Mentorship is a huge one that like is, I feel like, getting lost out there. And also like you just make yourself so much more replaceable by like putting yourself in those shoes. Like, it's just, it's definitely like it's a trend for sure. And I think, it's not something that's, ever going to go away, because we have tools now where you can work outside of an office, but it's, I just think, so important to be going in there and building those networks early and just getting used to having in-person interactions. It's crazy. Like when we come down here to Miami, and we've been having a goal to like go on business trips every month to meet with people, and everyone's like, oh yeah, you guys are the first recruiters that have ever asked to like meet with me. And it's
Really?
Just, like, I feel like it didn't used to be that way, but I feel like everything like got reset in COVID, like all in-person business, like people are, it just like, at least in like our industry, like recruiting, like people are shocked when we like actually want to meet them in person. They just think like we're those guys behind like LinkedIn or on the phone with them, but like that we actually want to have like a human interaction is like, wait, are you actually like a recruiter? And it's like, yeah, like we are, but like we do want to meet you. And like there is a lot of like, every time we meet with someone, it's rare that we leave without some sort of positive interaction on both sides. Like, it's just like there's something about like face-to-face, in person, whether it's in office or just a quick like coffee networking meeting where like you can drive so much, like there's so much value for both sides, but it just like, it's surprising that it's just like, people are so shocked that we want to do that when we're in the business of people. Like it's surprising.
One thing that's like really like blown my mind is like you ask anyone their favorite TV show, they're going to say, oh, I love Succession. I love Severance. I love The Office. I love Parks and Rec. And it's like, all those shows are about fucking working in an office.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like a subculture at this point. People, like, they see it and it's so foreign and they can't relate to it that they actually enjoy it. I'm like, well, if you enjoy these shows where people are bantering and having ups and downs, highs and lows in the office, like, why not try it for yourself? Like, you clearly enjoy watching a show about people working in an office, but you don't want to work in an office? Yeah, I don't understand that.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about are there any interesting positions that you guys have filled recently or are hearing about, like something that's maybe outside the box?
Yeah, I'll tell you, for sure.
Or maybe I'd also love to hear about, in the real estate industry, is there anything that's maybe like a canary in the coal mine? Like, are you hiring more acquisitions guys because the market's changing, or maybe like development guys because there's going to be some permits that are pulled because the market's changing? Something like that. Talk about both or either.
I mean, we mentioned it with the EAs. I think that's very interesting.
EA is definitely one thing. I would say like last year, kind of the last 12 to 18 months, like asset management was the hot job. But that, I'd say the past 3 months and onward has really kind of slowed down. I'd say where we're seeing a lot right now is on the fundraising side, like groups looking to hire like a head of IR, head of fundraise. I'm thinking that's probably like where we're at in the cycle. Groups are thinking they're going to like, this is a good time to hire there. And then development is another area where I would say like specifically like high level development roles. Like we have seen an uptick in interest in those where we pretty much hadn't seen those roles for the past 2.5 years. So
interesting.
I think that's a promising sign on like just like the overall job market. Cause in a way like development, so much in the built world, like it all kind of spins off development at the end of the day. Like even like, like properties in your portfolio, like at one point, like they, someone developed them, built them, and like they're still like, creating the built world. So it's like, it's cool to see like, the hope that development's going to come back because that's just going to drive growth in the whole industry. So I'd say like, on the fundraise development side, but like, acquisitions, I mean, that's been like a practical ghost town for us on the hiring front the past like 2-3 years. We've made
And
It's a depression.
You still see those acquisitions roles. And here's my thing. I mean, when I approach one of these companies, I say, would you like to use a search firm to just see some talent on the acquisition side? They're always like, oh no, like we get so many people interested. I'm like, I bet, but the best acquisitions guy or gal could close a single deal that would pay the search fee like 100 times over. And I'm like, you wouldn't want to maybe try to get the absolute best. I mean, it's contingent. You don't have to pay unless we find the person, right? And they just don't see that.
The owners see the numbers of applicants.
And
they don't
Bryce
see the
pointed
quality.
out the funniest thing. It's like these owners, they're like, they'll use a debt broker. They'll pay, like a Walker and Dunlop, hundreds of thousands of dollars on fees. They'll pay their investment
place
sales
that,
brokers hundreds of thousands of dollars to fees to find and buy them an asset. A recruiter fee that's like $20K. Oh, absolutely not. A $15K, $20K, $25K recruitment fee. Nah, that's not for me. But they'll pay Walker and Dunlop millions and millions of dollars. So it's like, are your best assets
Through
your
the deal versus
buildings?
through the company.
Yeah. Are your best assets your buildings,
Yeah.
or your people? And it's very clear. The silence is loud when they say, oh, we're not going to just entertain it. It's like, that's fine. But guess what? There's people like you guys that will, they just see the value in the service. If you don't see the value in the service, I can't show you the value in the service. And I just move on to the next company that does see the value in the service.
Yeah, I mean, it's business 101 at this point. Like, if you don't understand that the most important part of your company is the people, like in the real estate business, we own a lot of assets, but the best assets are our people. Yeah. And thanks to you guys helped us place some amazing people, most recently in the last couple of years in operations and our CFO. And I can't tell you how many of our institutional equity partners have said, hey, you made some amazing hires. And that makes me feel really good. Obviously about having the team together and obviously, not that this is like top of mind, but paying you guys the fee is like not even a question. It's just It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah. 100%. And like when you think about like, especially on like the executive side, like how much value or like how much value can be lost with a bad hire. Like if you hire someone who isn't, executing like on the operations side, isn't executing on business plan execution, lease up execution, like you're losing so much value there where, if you hire the right person for that seat, like the value they can drive is just, like can be well over 7 figures on a single person, like seriously, like opportunity loss. So I think like, it is so important to just be like, open to like locating, the best person for these jobs. And so like, it is surprising to me when companies are like, especially because, and we try to work like alongside our clients. Like that's why we work non-retained, like non-exclusive. Like we want our clients to still be able to hire someone from their internal network. Like if that's the best person for the job, like that's the best person for the job. Like we want our clients to hire them. So that's going to help spur future growth and we can do, more work together in the future. But just to be like, I don't even want to see the options that you have is like really surprising to me a lot of the times just because
it's a bit
I
careless.
don't see what the cost is, but you know.
The cost is $0. I always say worst case scenario, we fill the job and you have to pay us. Worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Because their best case scenario is they just find someone. And this professional, he worked at one of those like CRE tech companies. He said this to me, and it's a line that I have stolen from him. And I told him I'm going to steal this. There's 3 types of professionals. You're unemployed, unhappy, or you're a good professional. And a good professional who's not unemployed or not unhappy is not applying to jobs on LinkedIn. They're a good professional.
No way.
They're locked in. They're taking people on tours. They're doing their rent rolls, their lease comps. They're doing OAC meetings if they're a project manager. They're not brushing off the old resume and shooting it out to jobs on LinkedIn. So anyone who's applying to a job on LinkedIn, now there's exceptions. Company could be folding. Someone could be relocating because their wife, wants to be closer to the in-laws or something like that, right? But like 99% of the people you're getting on a LinkedIn or an Indeed job are unhappy or unemployed. Or they're in like Bangalore and like they're not even real people. Like I'm serious. Have you ever seen what comes through like a job on LinkedIn?
Yeah,
you
can't
look through the applications.
You can't just go through the site again. So I actually wanted to touch on like one other trend I've noticed in CRE. So obviously there was the rate hike, and the rate hike happened, and it wiped basically a lot of companies' promotes. And I feel like promote was a way that kind of forced loyalty a bit with high-level executives. Yeah. And you saw this tectonic shift in a lot of companies where big executives are shifting to other companies. And vice versa. How have you guys, seen that, placed those type of executives? Like, what are some of the calls that you've had after that happened? I want to kind of hear specifically in CRE with this happening, how now with, promotes that shift, with equity that has been built, that's been wiped, how has that changed your dynamics?
Yeah. So I think promote is it's such a big word, and it's such a big thing, especially in real estate executive search. It's always, it's almost like the elephant in the room a lot of times because it's such a big thing. I think in a way, a lot of professionals did get their promote wiped out, and now I would say it feels almost like it's become less valued in their mind. People are more focused on okay, what's my actual cash comp, just because of what's happened in the market, and there's recency bias. If back in 2022, everyone wanted promote because look at what had happened to everyone's promote over the past 10 years, and not people don't want promote now. It's still very sought after, but I feel like it is lower on
the totem
pole than it was 3 years ago, so I think that's
because those people probably got burnt,
they got burnt, and now they're well, what am I, back 8 years ago when I signed up for this job, I thought this was my golden ticket, and now that didn't pan out, so I'm not as worried about that. I think it's promote has its most value when someone is going to joining a role where they have never had promote, so it's almost that thing they want to it's that's the next step. But then once an individual has stepped into a seat where they've had promote and experienced it, well, the fact that they're looking for a new job oftentimes means that it maybe didn't go quite as planned, or why would they be looking to leave? So I think we might have a bit of that's more the people we talk to in these situations, because we're talking to people that are actively, considering a change. So I think promote is, it's still such a huge factor, but it's just, I think, people are a little more reserved about it in a sense in this market. Yeah. Unless they've never had it, then it's
people think this is going to last forever, and it's not.
Burn the hand two in the bush. People people aren't feeling that aggressive, bullish in this market. They want the bird in the hand, not the.
Everyone's burned out. Everyone's burned out. Recency bias, like you said, it's been so many years of a down market, and we were so deep in we're basically in the 9th inning of the down cycle. I'm not making any predictions. I mean, we haven't
called it a recession yet, so that's why. Are we in the 1st inning?
Well, our industry is in a deep recession. I mean, it's
but
whether or not people want to say it.
No one wants to say it. Just say it already, so we can start moving out.
It's the worst kept secret in the world, if that's the case. I mean, come on, everybody knows that commercial real estate and multifamily are really bad. Other than maybe a couple asset classes within commercial, retail's been doing pretty well. Maybe self-storage or something.
Been suffering.
Yeah, it's all, wow. And there's a lot of supply.
Softened, yeah.
What's that going to look like in 8 to 10 years when there's a lot of supply and these leases roll? Yeah. But anyways, I mean, it's a recession for our industry. So yeah.
Yeah, almost to me feels like we're in the 11th or 12th inning. It just keeps
extra
getting
innings.
extended. It's I felt 6 months ago, it almost felt it was the bases were loaded in the bottom of the 10th, and there was 0 outs. It was going to be over, but it's boom, next thing you know, it just felt like there was 3 strikeouts in a row, and it's back to the top of the 12th now. That's how it feels.
That's a very, very good description. Yeah. Guys, last thought, kind of wrap it up. What's some advice you would give to an employer, a potential employee in this job market?
I would just say, for me personally, just you can't look at the job market under the microscope of what's a bad job market. You got to plan best case scenario. You got to say things will get better. Recency bias I think was mentioned a couple times, but make the hire. Don't give up. If you're going to hire the head of AI and implementation and you think that's going to change the business, why would you decide to give up? If you're no one, we always say it's ironic that we're in the first quarter of the year. The best professionals are the best professionals because they tell themselves New Year's resolution, maybe end of the year, they're around their family, and they say, this is the year I'm going to get a new job. And what you always see is the best professionals step up to the plate in the first part of the year because they told themselves we can get a new job. Getting a new job is not as spontaneous as this guy just called me and he said the right things. That's not how it works. We're not convincing these people to take new jobs. They want new jobs. We present the good job and it makes sense. So, just if this was going to be the year of your new job, if this was going to be the year that you made that hire you really thought was going to change the trajectory of your firm, just keep going for it. Like, why would you give up? Why would you psych yourself out?
Yep.
I think my biggest, honestly, the biggest piece of advice, and this is more focused on kind of the younger talent pool within real estate, but it's and we touched on it a little bit, with talking about mentorship and how key that is, but it's if you're at the analyst or associate level, don't think so much about what your cash comp's going to be this year. Think about who you're going to be working around, what you're going to get exposure to, and who you're going to learn from. And so I just feel especially working with kind of this younger generation at more the analyst associate level, sometimes their cash comp is kind of clouding what their actual mentorship is going to be like. And I just feel from talking to super successful executives in the industry and hearing their story, almost a common thread always is some sort of great mentorship early on, some sort of someone who took them under their wing or really taught them. And so I feel that is the most important thing at those kind of younger level roles. So focus in on that. Think about that as the paramount thing. Don't think so much about oh, I need to get a 50% pay bump if I'm going to take a new associate job. Is that really going to drive value for your career long term? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, when the younger you are, that needle's not going to move your trajectory. It's about who your mentors are, who you're working under. It really does directly and indirectly predict the trajectory of your career and the network that you're in, and that's what it's all about.
100%. And I think touching on obviously talking a lot today about remote work, hybrid work. It's at the executive level, if you're a super high performer that has a proven track record, and at that point you need to live in a certain market, I think it can make a lot of sense for groups to still consider bringing that person on. I know with Natalina when she was in San Diego, you were willing to bring that on because she had such a proven track record. So I feel at executive level roles, if you have a proven track record, the remote hybrid, if it makes sense to get that person in the seat, then it can make a lot of sense and drive a lot of value. But it's these younger, more entry level, mid level roles where it's that to me feels that's going to be the kryptonite.
She's also on the road a lot.
That was
right?
what I was going to say. She's an asset manager role can be a senior asset manager or executive asset manager. They can be more remote because they're on the road so often.
She's visiting properties
the
every
properties
week.
are their office.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's almost like hybrid, right? It's not really remote. Yes, when she's working office,
her
quote
team
unquote,
is all scattered.
Any asset manager,
all the regionals,
a lot of asset managers are remote, but it's truly hybrid because when you're doing your office work, yes, you're in your home office, but 3 days a week you're on the road, and it's really, really hard work.
100%.
These people work really, really hard. I woke up this morning, I had 7 to 10 emails in my inbox. They were all from her.
Yeah.
It's at 3 in.the.morning. What did you
I
say?
mean, they're between 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. my time. Wow. So yeah.
Well, guys, really great having you on. Thanks again. And looking forward to continuing to scale the company with your guys' help on the talent side.
Appreciate you for having us.
Absolutely.
Man.
Yeah. Thank you
awesome.
for having us.
This is great.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.